Miami mercenaries, really that's a double M. Born baller, baby boy, I be above the rim.
What's good, family? It's your boy Just Blaze, host of the best NBA pod in the game, Above the Rim. Keep it locked each week and join myself and a special guest as we tackle the latest rumblings in the league. If it's happening in the NBA, you know I got you covered. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms and leave that 5-star review. Let's get it.
These are my clown-ass Olympians right here.
You know what I'm saying? We
You know what I'm saying? New to Snapchat and all that. Look at him, Jimi Hendrix in the face. They give the people what they wanted. I was away from the game for a year and some change, so they wanted me to get out the game. They wanted me to retire. You hear all that stuff, man.
Or offensively, he could put the ball on the floor. He could do it all. Don't give me some metrics. Don't give me some analytics. Don't give me some garbage nonsense about how, oh my goodness, who contributes to winning or whatever. I'll tell you what contributes to losing, Max. People who can't score. You understand?
Talk about it.
You are now tuned in to Above the Rim.
Family, welcome back to another edition of Above the Rim. Brought to you as always, it's your host, Justin, a.k.a. Just Blaze. Family, you know the drill. To get in contact with me, you can always hit me up. Follow me on Twitter at JustBlaze_513. On IG is at JustBlaze513. On Facebook, search Above the Rim Podcast. Email the show as well. Above the Rim NBA Podcast at gmail.com. Tap in and leave the family a voicemail. The line is always open, 908-718-1592. Show some love, subscribe on all platforms, stock up on your merch. Joining me this week, family, one of my guys I connected with talking hoops. Now, you know on Above the Rim, we always show Melo a lot of love over here, but this man took it up a notch. Number one villain to the calculator, boys. Creator and host of the Control the Narrative show. My guy, Steven. What's good, my brother? How you living?
Yo, what's good, bro? Appreciate you having me on. And hell of an intro. I just, started going against these calculator boys or that term in the past few days, but tonight should be pretty special.
I like to hear you say that, brother, because that's one of the things I've been saying myself for a long time. I always fight against the calculator brothers myself, so we must have been distant cousins for a while now.
It's crazy shit, bro.
Out of control. So let the family know when they can find you at, Steve.
Yeah. So Twitter or IG at Steve TSAK, or if you want to hit up my podcast, Control the Narrative at CTRL Narrative on Twitter, Instagram too.
Yes, sir. Make sure you go find them out there, family. So let's get it started. Copping or dropping? We'll discuss 2 NBA hot topic questions. If you agree, you copping. If you disagree, you dropping. So let's talk about 2 intriguing teams that are pretty much fighting for that last spot in the East right now. Talking about the Wizards and I'm talking about the Hornets. 2 teams that are both playing really well right now. The Hornets are one of the feel-good stories of the year. My rookie of the year, Melo Ball, returned from a fractured wrist. Didn't miss a beat, dropped 11, 7, and 8. Malik Monk came back as well after missing the past 15. They're just waiting on Gordon Hayward to come back as well. Currently holding on to that 8th spot. Now on the Wizards side, they won 10 out of their last 12-5 in April. 8-game win streak we know they had recently. Beal is tied with Steph for the scoring title at 31, which I'm pulling for Beal to get that. Russ is averaging a triple-double again for the 4th time in 5 seasons. Among the NBA's top 10 in rebounds, I believe, and also leads the NBA in assists. Apparently, I don't know if you know this, Steve, that these 2 are called, their nickname is Fire and Ice. Did you hear that?
I've never heard that
Me
before.
neither. I saw that today. I was like, wow, since when we call him Beal and Russ, Fire
I'm guessing
and Ice. Westbrook
is fire.
Yeah, I'm assuming so. And but whatever, they are dynamic duos, as most thought they will be, currently in the 10th spot right now. So copping or dropping this take, Steve. The Hornets will give the number 1 seed more comp than the Wizards in the first round. Copping or dropping?
Yeah, I'm dropping that.
Talk to me.
Like you said, bro, like they're a feel-good story. I personally loved LaMelo and wanted him on the Knicks so bad.
Yeah.
Before the draft and before the draft lottery and all that. But as they are right now, this year is a win for them. They got their franchise player in LaMelo Ball. They have some good pieces in Monk. Miles Bridges, I like a lot.
I know.
Gordon Hayward has been doing his thing. But at the end of the day, when you have Westbrook and Bradley Beal, you could talk about inefficiency. You can talk about stat padding and all that. I'd be lying if I said I didn't talk about it at all. But having 2 superstar guys like that especially in the playoffs. It's all about superstars, and it's all about who can get you a bucket when you need one. So I think the Wizards are a better competition for whoever the one seed ends up being, whether that's Philly, Brooklyn, or whoever.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I'm dropping this as well. So the number one seed is definitely going to be either, I think, the 76ers or the Nets. So if you look at the Wizards, how they match up with them, I believe they're 2-1 against the Nets, but I believe they didn't win against the 76ers. But I believe anytime you have two stars that you know can go off for at least 30, you always have at least a puncher's chance in a series. And I think more so they may have... I mean, I don't know which team I would say between the 76ers and Nets they will have more of a chance against, because both teams are exceptional. The Wizards are clearly a step back in the Eastern Conference in the lower tier. The Wizards in the lower tier. But I don't know if you can fully trust the 76ers yet. I'm one of those guys that doesn't fully trust them. They are a phenomenal team, but I don't fully trust them. And the Nets as well in terms of health. Talent-wise, we know they're to be trusted. But in terms of health, they're still not to be trusted. So you never know, a team can get hot. The Wizards are clearly on a nice run. And I feel like I'm one of the believers that the entire playoff race is going to be tight in every single round. Not some of them not necessarily tight, but more competitive than we expect. And I think if the Wizards get in there, man, they could at least win a game or two. I feel like they could at least take two from one of those teams. Would you agree?
For sure. And again, it just goes back to also the experience.
Exactly.
Where Westbrook went to the finals. Bradley Beal had a few years of playoff experience with Wall. LaMelo, no playoff experience. Bridges, no. Hayward, a little bit with Utah and Boston. But at the end of the day, two superstars, experience, and being hot at the right time. I just don't see how you can say that the Hornets will give anybody a better shot than that. Even
though I do like how the Hornets are playing this season, and I'm actually very surprised. They're actually playing really well. I love how they're pushing the ball up the floor every possession. But I don't know if they're ready for the playoffs yet. I feel like they would be the most easy out of every team that is in the playoffs if they do get into that 8th spot. So,
I agree.
So I'm pulling for the Wizards. Hopefully Russ and Beal can get it done. Let's see some action, man. So let's get to the next cop and the drop-in. So I had to bring up these Phoenix Suns and Knicks on this next one. You're on wax many times saying you're tired of the Melo disrespect. And the same way you feel about that, I feel about that with CP3. So I called CP3 MVP for a couple of weeks ago with my man Josh on an episode, couple of episodes back. And now all of a sudden CP has been getting a lot of MVP buzz lately in the national media. But it's also bringing some backlash too, which also comes with the territory when you're getting, some MVP consideration. Now we know the Suns are right now a first or semi-first in the West and best record in the league with the Utah Jazz, 23-9 versus plus 500 teams, best record in the league. The young core, Booker, Ayton, Bridges, Cam Johnson, all have taken their games up a notch and improved this season. For the most part, the Suns swapping out Rubio and Oubre, bringing in CP and Crowder this year, clinched their first playoff berth of the franchise since 2010. So copping or dropping this take, bro. CP3 is receiving too much credit for the Suns' success this season. Copping or drop?
I'm also going to drop this one.
Talk to me.
Chris Paul is the best point guard that I've watched in my life. Was born in 94, so take that what it is. People talk about Stockton Magic. Wasn't really alive and following the NBA for that. So for me, Chris Paul, what he brings to a team, obviously we know the leadership, the playmaking, the shooting, just everything. And you see wherever he goes, they get better. And it's not by coincidence with the Clippers, Hornets. You look at what the Thunder did last year, I'm pretty sure they took the Rockets to 7 games in that first round. Everywhere this man goes, he elevates his teammates. He's the definition of a leader on the court, off the court, a meme. He's meme gold, all of the fucking memes that he's done of making fun of refs and all that shit. So
plenty of those.
Yeah, and like people talk about, okay, the Suns last year in the bubble were 8-0, like they were going to be this good this year. I don't know if that's the case. Like, I think they got hot in the bubble, and like 8-0, that's no small feat, obviously. But at the end of the day, to keep that up for an entire season and to play at the level that they've been playing at, and even the game a week ago at MSG when Chris Paul single-handedly won the game for them down the stretch in MSG against a very good, one of the best defensive teams in the league. It's just every year I go to LeBron where it's just like every year, I don't want to say you're waiting for them to fall off, but every year it's like, all right, is this the year that they do fall off? Mm-hmm. And with Chris Paul, all it is, it's about health. Like what he brings to the court, he can do at, how old is he? 35 right 35. Now. He can do that he was doing that at 24. He could do this at 38, 39, obviously not at this level, but I cannot speak enough. I cannot speak highly enough about Chris Paul and just all the different things he brings to a team. So I would not be mad at all if he got some MVP votes.
See, I hear you on that. I agree on all fronts, of course. And I feel like this, like people are really just blinded by stats nowadays, man. Yeah. Like blinded. Like one of my taglines, I always say impact over stats. I'm always saying on 100%. Twitter. So even though Chris Paul's numbers are very humble, how much he dictates the game, it just can't be quantified in statistics. And he's averaging, a calm 16-8, very calm, but he leads the league in mid-range scoring at 6 feet. Top 5 in club scoring in the league, which is a phenomenal feat if people really put that into the proper context. Yep. And I've been all in on the Suns since game 1 of the season. I believe they can get it done. And I still do believe they can get it done. I've been on wax for a while saying that now. The roster's balanced, and it shows each night. Everyone on this Suns team has become a star in their role. Like Devin Booker, he handles the top scoring duties and secondary playmaker. Obviously, CP is the lead playmaker, the orchestrator. Ayton mixes it up on the interior. Mikal Bridges is now flourished as to be a top, one of the top on-ball defenders. Crowder, Cam Johnson's the utility wings, floor spacers. All the role players fit where they need to be. And to me, it's been a thing now to say that giving Chris Paul credit for this Suns team, for this Suns success, basically diminishes how important a Booker is or Ayton is to this team. And I disagree 100%. There's a lot have you seen that on Twitter? There's a lot of voices saying that. People who are saying, how can you give CP3 all the credit for the Suns being this good when they were already on the cusp, like you said, being 8-0 in the bubble? But a lot of people forget that 8-0 run in the bubble, a lot of guys was out. Remember, a lot of people were resting players in the bubble. So people forgetting a lot about that as well. And to me, for me personally, he is the MVP of this league because to me, it was very hard to come into a brand new franchise and establish a winning culture in your first year and actually execute on that winning culture and go from basically a fringe playoff team to a number 1 seed. That doesn't happen very often. You got to give that man credit. And to me, I don't see how you can take away from MVP consideration from CP, from the Suns, and people are considering Jokic the clear-cut favorite. Who's your MVP right now, if I'm asking you?
I'm going to have to go Embiid, bro. I think what this dude's been doing, I just think he's one of the most dominating players I've seen in a while when he wants to be. Yeah. Just being that height, having that skill set. Obviously, what Philly's doing this year with Doc Rivers as their coach, but no, I'm going Embiid. But real quick to touch on that Suns thing, I think in the playoffs for them, it's going to be really interesting to see how they do, because obviously they have CP, who has plenty of playoff experience. But at the same time, their go-to scorer is Devin Booker, and he's in his 5th year now, his 6th year, and he's never played a playoff game. So to see how he adjusts to that, I think is going to be really, really interesting. And I'm sure he'll be fine, and I'm sure he's going to ball out and everything. But there is that slim chance where the game slows down and maybe they double team him. And teams play a lot differently in the playoffs than they do the regular season. So interested to see how Booker balls out in the playoffs.
I agree with you there, and I think honestly, if I'm being honest here, I think the entire team is going to be shocked a little bit. I would say maybe for the first 2 games, I would say, shocked by the intensity, how the playoff intensity rises and how the game is played differently and also how the game is refereed differently in the playoffs as well. So I do think the young guys are going to feel a little bit of an initial shock. But I think a guy like Devin Booker is elite enough where he can actually adjust and really play his game. Because if you look at his game, he really plays a slow pace anyway. He's very efficient, half-court sets, half-court shots. So he really actually plays a playoff style anyway as a guard. So I think him in particular, he can actually adjust. Now, we'll see if Ayton becomes a little soft in the playoffs, because I hope he doesn't, man. I hope he doesn't turn into that jolly green giant that he used to be, man. He's the one I'm a little worried about, but everyone else, I think they'll be all right, man. Definitely. Yeah, brother. So let's get to some Blazers talk, man. So I know very vocal on Twitter about them, critical but very honest about them. Yeah. They've had a up and down season, I would say, thus far. Quite a few injuries to deal with. CJ missed 25 games. Nurk missed about 30 games, or a little bit over 30. Zach Collins hasn't even played a game. Glassman. Swapped out my boy Gary Trent and Rodney Hood for Norman Powell. Basically a 500 basketball team since the All-Star break. I believe tied with the Clippers for the best offensive rating since the All-Star break, while the defense is bottom 5. Ridiculous, horrific bottom 5 defense. But Portland has rebounded well after going on a 5-game losing streak they had recently. Pretty much has been a middle of the pack team in the West all season. Most people, me included, had them projected to be a little bit higher into the upper echelon of the West. So they're fighting for basically the 5th, 6th, and 7th seed right now. So talk to me a little bit on your thoughts on how the season has gone for the Blazers, expectations, and if you feel like the Blazers right now are still a contender for the NBA title. Talk to me.
It's such a confusing season for them because, like you said, everyone expected them to be in that upper echelon, a top 4 team at the very worst. Heading into the season, seeing what they did in the bubble, Dame doing what he was doing, Melo being a huge part, CJ, Nurk, like they clicked in the bubble. 6-2 in the seeding games. They won that play-in game against the Grizzlies, and then they won that first game against the Lakers, and then they had some injuries, and the refs took over and shit like that, so their season didn't end well. But heading into the season, like, their roster is a good roster. Yeah. Like, to this day, they made a stupid trade, in my opinion, at the deadline, flipping Gary Trent and Rodney Hood for Powell.
I agree. I'm with you on that one, brother. I was mad at that.
Shit makes no sense, and like,
bad trade.
The reason they did that was because Gary Trent's going to be a free agent this summer, and he's going to get paid, and they didn't want to pay him, so they're like, all right, let's have somebody similar, which fair, but at the end of the day, they have Damian Lillard, who is in his absolute prime right now, who they're supposed to be surrounding him with pieces to win right now, not next year, not let's save some money. Anyway, going back to this season, like, obviously they've dealt with a lot of injuries, and then what's the craziest part is when CJ was out, when Nurk was out, the Blazers were balling. Yeah. Dame was doing his thing. Melo stepped up big time, averaging 20 points a game for a good amount of those games. Not every single game, but he had a lot of good stretches when those guys were out, having a lot more opportunity. Gary Trent was doing his thing, and they were the 4th seed in the West at one point when these guys were out. Nurk comes back, CJ comes back. They trade Trent for Powell. And since then, shit has just been really rocky. They have not been able to stop absolutely anybody. Correct. And it's just, they're one of those teams at this point where you just need to outscore the other team instead of stopping them, which is fine. But when Dame isn't shooting 70% from the field, then when CJ's not shooting 60, and when Nurk isn't putting up 4 assists a game, and when Melo's not putting up 18 points a game, it doesn't work. And like you see right now, they're on a little 4-game winning streak after they lost 5 in a row. So right now it's working. If they play another team, like let's say they had played in Brooklyn with the Nets fully healthy, they probably wouldn't win that game because they can't match up with them offensively. So it's really, who can they outscore? Do I look at them as a real contender? It hurts me to say this, but probably not. And the reason I say probably not is because the only reason they would be is if Dame is absolutely in the zone and CJ is doing his thing and Melo's doing his thing. And there's just so many things that need to go right for this team. And people aren't talking about it, but Dame's been injured a lot of this season. You could see whenever he goes down, he's been battling a lot of injuries behind the scenes. So he hasn't been right over the past few weeks, 2 months or so. So there's just so many things that has to go right, from their offense clicking to their defense being competent, like just holds people under like 115 points, and they can't do it most of the time
at all.
So at all. So that's just what it goes. It comes down to, can they outscore the other team? And especially in the West with all these good teams, like let's say they play the Clippers in the first round, or I don't know, Denver. Well, Denver's a weird situation right now because they lost Murray, so they're balling out lately. But I don't know if they can keep that up. So I don't think so. I think just so many things have to go right. And I just think the odds of that happening are slim to none.
So semi-optimism is what I'm hearing from you. Semi.
I guess.
Rooting for him, but you're a little scared to root for him, I feel like.
Of course.
That's what I hear coming from you, man. And I kind of agree with you, man, because how I view this Blazers team, they are a semi-contender to me. I think they can beat anybody, but I don't think they will. Like, they can still win on the road, which is good. I believe they had over 20 plus road wins. I know that was top 3 in the NBA or something like that. So they can win on the road as an elite team. Dynamic offense, as everyone knows, clearly. But that defense is just way too suspect for my knowledge, man. It's just way too sus for me. And I just can't get over that, me personally. And I know for the season as a whole, aren't they either last or they're like bottom 3 in defensive efficiency for the season. So, but I'm saying that because I'm not big on the efficiency and all that, but this is a common theme for this team.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time we've talked about the Blazers defense and the Blazers defense being poor, or the Blazers defense being not up to par. And it's hard to really figure them out. Some people blame coaching, Terry Stotts, which I think he's a little sus too. I think he has a long leash, and I don't know why, but he does. So I think there's a lot of things that go into the defense. Some of the critics may blame certain players. Some critics blame the scheme. Some blame coaches. So, but to me, it also could be a lack of effort as well. So there's a lot of things that could factor into the lack of defense for them. So I know I hear you saying that you're a little shaky on them being a contender this season. So give me an area that you feel like they may need to improve on if they were trying to be a contender, or if they could knock off one of those top teams in the West. What do they need to improve on?
Defense. Like it's that straightforward, and I know it's such an obvious answer of like, oh, just get better defensively and you'll be good. But like, it's really that simple. Like, this team can score with absolutely anybody, but at the same time, like, their defense is just bad. And I don't think it's one person's fault. I don't think it's the coach's fault. I don't think it's the starting lineup's fault. Some people are trying to blame Carmelo Anthony, a bench player, for this team's defense, which I think is so funny. Like, yo, let's blame the bench guy. Same thing that happened in Houston. But I honestly, of course, he's a scapegoat. He's always been his whole career. But I think it's like a little bit of everything, to be honest with you. Like, the coach hasn't adjusted at all. They don't trap people. They just go man to man. They switch sometimes. Sometimes they go under the screen. Like, they just don't adjust, which is the most frustrating part of it all. But at the same time, when you put out the starting lineup to open this year of Dame, CJ, Derrick Jones Jr., and Covington, who were supposed to be these superstar wing defenders who are going to shut everybody down. And now Derrick Jones Jr., I don't think he's played a minute in like 3 or 4 games now. He's racking up DNP CDs. So I think there's like a little bit of blame to go around with everybody. Again, health has been an issue, but at the same time, like you said, defense, you mentioned it real quick, defense is about effort and energy at the end of the day. So if like, it's crazy because I say this all the time on my podcast. It's not like the guys that they have on their roster are slow. Like, Covington's not slow. Like Derrick Jones Jr. is a great athlete. Like all these guys can move. All these guys can play defense if they want to, and like they do sometimes. And I'm not blaming the players, but like it's on the coaches, it's on the players, it's a little bit on everybody. From reports that we're hearing, Stotts is probably going to be out after this year, after like 8 years, 9 years with the team. I don't know if they got the
balls to do that, man.
I think they're fine. I think they've had enough. That's what people are reporting. I think it's a wrap for Stotts, unless they fucking pull some crazy shit out of their half. But
I feel like they got too much loyalty to him. But carry on, yeah.
I don't know why. Like it's weird.
It is.
It's so weird. But yeah, it's just defense at the end of the day. We'll see. We'll get into Melo's career moving forward next year, but yeah, I just think there's going to be a lot of changes in Portland this summer.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I hear you on that one. Before we move on there real quick, I think in addition to the defense, one area I feel like the Blazers need to improve on, I thought about is I need them to relax on their over dribbling. I feel like this team over dribbles, and their overall offensive strategy to me is like it's very Andre Miller like. It's a basic game to me. I see a lot of desperation shots on too many possessions for the Blazers. Man, they don't get easy shots very often, and to me personally, I think it has to do with the lack of play calling, because I don't feel like they call a lot of plays. And too many times I see guys either standing around ball watching, clapping their hands. We see Melo clapping for the rock a lot and doesn't get it. I'm sick of seeing that too. So it's too much ball watching, too much isolation, and as you said before, the defense. I mean, so they definitely have to upgrade on that end if they're trying to make any type of noise in the playoffs. And you brought up Melo. It's about time we talk about it, because I know you go at it with a lot of guys on Twitter who keep pushing this agenda that Melo is terrible on defense. It's his fault. Overrated. Shoots too much. The game is passed him by. Yada, yada, yada. Whatever bullshit we hear. And guys like you and I and others, we push back on a lot. We push back a lot. Lots of these calculator boys, a bunch of these losers, these stat stuffers. But so Melo has been solid this season. He's averaging 13 to 24 minutes humbly off the bench. So let's talk about Melo's fit in particular in Portland this season. So what are your thoughts on how Melo has fit in and how this season has gone for him in particular this season in your estimation?
Not how I expected, to be honest with you. Last year was a perfect fit. He was the starting. He was a starting forward for them. He spread the floor for them. He got his opportunities in isolation. He made clutch defensive plays in the bubble. Just last year, you can't complain at all. He put up, I think, over 15 a game last year.
Did he start the whole bubble? The whole bubble, right? The whole bubble,
the whole year last year.
Oh, the whole year.
Then they go out the whole year from game one in New Orleans. And this year they signed Derrick Jones Jr. for $9 million a year. They signed Robert Covington. They actually didn't sign Melo for like 2 days into free agency. They announced all these moves, and then everybody was like, yo, what's going on with Melo? We found out later that they had been talking to him. I was like, yo, would you be down to come off the bench? And I guess he had to think about it again, and he thought about it. And again, like the same thing he said in Houston, where it was an adjustment for him. Dude's been starting, forget the NBA, his entire life. And to come off the bench, it's just a different mindset. I can't relate, like we can't relate. But the first preseason game, I think he put up like 27 or 24 or something like that. And obviously just preseason, but everybody was saying, yo, if this is how the Blazers are going to use him, if he just comes off the bench, they feed him, literally let him facilitate the offense, get his. He's always been a willing passer. People don't give him credit for that. But I think the expectations were just really high for him, for this Blazers team. And
you mean his expectations for the Blazers?
No, expectations for him and expectations for the Blazer team independently. And it's just been a weird season. Like you see guys like Robert Covington and Derrick Jones Jr. and Norman Powell and these guys finishing games, getting a lot of burn and also finishing games over Carmelo Anthony. Before the season, the Blazers GM Neil Olshey said, people get caught up about who starts games when talking about Melo, but it's really about who finishes games. So I said, all right, fair. You just want to get him his minutes later in the first quarter, whatever, and then he'll finish games fine. And he was finishing games in the beginning. Hit some clutch shots. Another clutch shot this season against the Raptors, like he did last year with the game winner. And shit was going good. And, even when CJ and Nurk were out, he was finishing games, all this shit. Then again, CJ Nurk come back, they trade for Powell, and he hasn't been finishing games nearly as much, which to me has been the most frustrating thing, because this is literally one of the most clutch players in NBA history. He's still doing it. It's not like we're talking about, his first 15 years of his career. Like, no, he had a game winner last year in Toronto. He's hit clutch shots. He just hit a clutch shot last night in Boston. A 3 that put him up 5 with a minute left. So that to me has been humbly. So that to me has been, it's just been like a frustrating season in so many different ways. Everybody thought the Blazers were going to be better. Everyone thought Melo was going to be more involved in the offense. His numbers are down points per game wise this year, just because he's not getting as many opportunities. So the fit wise this year, again, thought it was going to be great. All right, cool, fuck it, come off the bench, let him do his thing, but it just hasn't been there. So not a great fit this year.
That's interesting to hear you say that, and I'm glad that you said all that, because going back to the bench role now that he has been taking, and taking it, I would say, pretty well, off the bench for the Blazers. I remember, I'm sure you probably remember this. I know you're in New York too, right? So when Melo was on the Rockets, right? And they came over here for that one game that they had in Brooklyn that year, with him and CP over here, and he had that 28, I believe, in the Barclays, something like that.
28, 9 of 12 shooting.
There we go. Talk about it. Yeah, so I was at that game, right? Because I'm always at every CP game. Oh, you was at that game too? Look at that.
Same, I was there.
Oh, shit. So I was at that game, right? And one thing that I noticed, right, for sure about Melo, I noticed, and it was early in the season. It was obviously between the first 10 games of the season. So I noticed Melo, right? He didn't, when it was time for him to come off the bench, right? When the game started, he wasn't really sitting on the bench with the rest of the guys on the bench. But I saw him, he was low-key in the tunnel. I don't know if he was either on the bike or he was just chilling there in the tunnel a little bit, just to keep himself warm, just to keep himself getting ready. And he knew the exact time that he was going to come in when Mike D'Antoni was going to call him. I believe it was like 7 minutes in the first quarter, something like that, very early in the first 7 to 8 minutes. And then I noticed, I'm like, damn, Melo really doesn't like coming off the bench right now. Like, it's bothering him a little bit, but he's doing his best to showcase. He's doing his best for the team. And I feel like it should be a little bit more commendable for him really trying his hardest to go into that mindset of coming off the bench and becoming a different player. Obviously, his touches are going to become a little bit less. And I feel like you can be a guy coming off the bench, but still be a feature offensive weapon. Like, say, a guy like Jordan Clarkson, how he is right now. You see how he's coming off the bench for the Jazz, but he still is featured when he comes off the bench as one of the primary ball handlers. So, with that being said, I still don't think the Blazers utilize him correctly enough. I would say in these past 2 years, this year more so than last year, but I would say I still don't think they utilize him correctly. So I agree with you there. And I just feel like maybe the team is just not best suited for Melo's strengths as a scorer. I rarely see him in pick and pops. He gets an occasional post up every now and again when he actually initiates the offense. And too often, though, I see him in the corner or the right wing is like a decoy. I know a couple of weeks ago you had that clip where he was clapping. I forgot who was I don't know if it was Dame or CJ. One of them over dribbling as usual. And Melo was on the right wing clapping for the Rock, and he really didn't get it, and he was wide open. And it was really showed a lot of how the Blazers actually run their offense this season, and actually how they don't really maximize their opportunities on offense. And I believe not getting Melo the ball often enough isn't maximizing their opportunities on offense if they are not a defensive team, because clearly they are not. And to me, I feel like he's not getting any of those rhythm touches that we are used to Melo getting, that we know Melo does well in. And it's funny how rhythm works, because Once Melo gets a couple of touches, he's getting a little bit more aggressive. He's turning Peyton Pritchard into barbecue chicken down there when he was coming on the court. So, or you got to give my man some rhythm touches. But I don't feel like they do a good enough job actually trying to get my man into a rhythm. And I feel like they're doing him and the team a disservice by not getting Melo those rhythm touches, man.
Yeah, bro. And you know what's the craziest thing when he talked about like his fit and all that is, I almost feel like they don't need him because they have so many ISO scorers. They have Dame, they have CJ, they have Simons, they have Norman Powell now. They have all these guys who can get a bucket for them. And last year they didn't have that. Yeah. And they needed Melo to get those 15 points. Now it almost feels like they give it to Melo not because they need a bucket, because they can get that from a number of different people, but it's just like, all right, well, we have to let him get his. So here you go, Melo. And it's like he'll hit a couple shots in a row, and if he doesn't make one of them, he gets yanked. And he misses one, it's yanked. If he misses two, Stotts is calling for a timeout to get Melo off the court. And it's just an impossible situation to win in because you have that in the back of your mind. Like, if I miss a shot, like, I'm headed to the bench. And it's not a good mindset. And going back to that Brooklyn thing real quick, I was actually at the game in Brooklyn. I was at that Brooklyn game, and I was also at the Brooklyn game this Friday. And he did the same thing. He went off into the tunnel, and he didn't wait until he was getting called in, but he went out in the tunnel for like 2-3 minutes. And then like after the game was started, there was maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes left on the game clock. I don't remember exactly, but then he came back out and he was sitting on the bench waiting to come in. So it has to fuck with them mentally.
That's clear.
And people 100%. And people don't talk about like that adjustment that he's been able to make. People say, oh, he hasn't adjusted his game. He's done that many times in his career. When Phil came, he adjusted his game to play in the triangle. In OKC, he adjusted his game. That was a shit show. In Houston, he adjusted his game to come off the bench. They didn't let him. In Portland, he adjusted his game to play. So he's always adjusted. People are never going to give him credit for it. But it's a huge adjustment to go from literally being a star player to being the fourth option in OKC to coming off the bench in Houston the very next year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on all fronts there. So I'm glad you said that, and you were saying that you don't feel like Portland has been the best fit for Melo. But they did give him a role. So I want to say in the offseason now, it looks like Melo has I would say, gained most of, I would say, the trust back from the general public. I mean, some of those calculated dudes, we're not going to count those, but a lot of, from the general public, it seems that the tide is turned again, is where they're no longer saying Melo is washed. So in regards to that, in terms of the offseason now, because we know he's a free agent, he signed a veteran minimums deal. So he may have some suitors in the offseason. We'll see how that goes. So what do you think, in your estimation, what do you think he should do in the offseason? What do you think will be his best bet?
Man, I think it's what he should, in hindsight, obviously hindsight is 2020. Looking back to last summer, there were some rumors about him going to this team. Didn't end up going. They asked him about it. He said, now is not the right time. At this moment, he kept saying words like that, like right now, at this time, this team isn't ready. He didn't say this team isn't ready, but terms like that. It's insane to me as a New Yorker, as a lifelong Knicks fan, how perfect him and the New York Knicks are for each other right now, even at this stage in his career, because you look at the Blazers, they're a team of scorers with no defense. And then you look at the Knicks, and they're a team of defense, and Alec Burks is one of the scorers that they're relying on.
Alec Burks Jordan on the Knicks.
He's been nice. He's been solid for them. But at the end of the day, like, what if Melo was there this year? It would have been, oh my God, it would have been so much fun. They could 1000% use them. So I think, obviously nobody expected the Knicks to be this good this year, but I think now that they really have a nucleus, they really have a core, they really have an identity, and they're figuring shit out. If Melo went back home, obviously he never wanted to leave New York in the first place. They pretty much forced him out, saying, hey, we're rebuilding, like, accept the trade to a team, or else like you're just going to go through this rebuilding process. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that at that time. So I just think it would be so perfect. I don't know how many years he has left. I don't know if he wants to play for 1 more year, 2 more years, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But him back in blue and orange at MSG in his hometown, with a good Knicks team. It's not like this Knicks team is going to be trash and this is just like a farewell
team. So he can be in a playoff situation.
Exactly. With a solid team. And he could add to this team. It's not like he'd just be going in there and kind of forcing his way. Like they need go-to scorers, and like Randall has been unbelievable this year, and RJ has done his thing. But imagine they had Melo just to get a bucket from him.
And hold up, Steve. Let's not act like Randall wasn't in Black Ops this summer with Melo 2 training getting nice.
Yeah.
Now let's not act like Melo didn't have something to do with Randall being this nice this year. Let's not forget he was in the Brickley gym. So we got to give Melo some love there too as well. And I like that fit, man. I like to hear that. I would love to see Melo back in the Garden. The streets definitely want to see Melo back in the Garden. 100%. So that would be nice for that to happen. I definitely wish, like I said before, I'm a CP guy. So I wish this offseason he would have went to Phoenix with my man CP, because I think that would have been the best fit for him. A crowd of Melo front court would have been nice, and he would have been able to get their touches and flourish, because I still think he could fit into that Phoenix team. And then, like I said before, I knew they were going to be good. So I didn't actually want him to go back to the Blazers this upcoming season. But I know he went there for a little comfortability. Melo, it seems to me he doesn't like too much change. So, well, hopefully he's thinking about that this summer, and maybe give the Knicks some consideration. Hopefully the Knicks give him some consideration, because that definitely would be nice, man, for sure.
There's too many ties. There's too many ties there with Leon Rose.
Too many.
And all, Thibodeau, all this. I could go down the list.
This is the right time. 18 years in now. Creeping up the history ladder. He's at 11 right now in scoring. He's got Elvin Hayes and what was it, Moses Malone he's got to pass up. He can catch this season, I think, to become number 9. He probably is going to be top 10 tonight, most likely, right after we end off this show. So that's going to be solid. So where do you think my man Melo is going to end up on the scoring chart all time? They got Shaq at 8 with 28K. Wilt is at 7 with over 31K. Melo is at a little bit over 27K. What do you feel like he's going to end up when it's all said and done, bro?
This is tough, man. Obviously, it all depends on how many more seasons we see him playing.
Yeah. I'm hoping we get a couple. Like 3. 2 or 3?
Same. Right now, he is about 1,300 away from Shaq for number 8. And then the difference between number 8 and Shaq and Will Chamberlain is almost 3,000. So absolute best case scenario he's going to get is number 8. Just for reference, this season in 63 games, he scored 858 points. So he would need to have a better year next year than he does this year. And obviously, like, there's still 10 games left, and this was a shortened season and all that. But man, if he plays 2 more years, obviously he's going to get number 8. If next year is his last year, I think it'll be tough to reach Shaq, just because of how many opportunities he's going to get, unless he goes to a team like,
man, I want him to get that.
Of course, bro. Of course, unless he goes to a team like Detroit and he's just like, fuck it, just give me the ball, let me score. But I highly doubt he does something like that. So to be honest with you, I'm going to go number 9. He might do it this year. He will definitely do it next year, next season. So I'm going to go number 9. But yeah, bro, 10 points away, and he is officially a top 10 scorer of all time, which hopefully, you never know with this Blazers team how many opportunities he's going to get, but
he might not get enough shots tonight.
I feel like they all know what's at stake tonight, so I feel like they'll let him get it pretty early.
Yeah,
but, I'm going to go number 9.
Okay, I hear you on that. I agree with you. They definitely should be feeding him tonight, so he definitely should get that number 9. I'm definitely hoping he gets number 8 too. So I'm definitely right there with you. Best comp to Melo in the league right now for you? Who you got?
2 guys come to mind. One who is probably my favorite young player in the league, Jason Tatum.
Oh, talk about it.
He is just
my guy.
Skill. That's like pure skill. 6'9", can shoot like he can shoot, can drive like he can handle the ball, just skill. And that's always been my thing. I always admire skill over athleticism. I think it's more impressive. I think it's cooler. I could go down the list, but Tatum grew up. Melo was one of his idols. He talked about Kobe and Paul George, but you see a lot of Melo and Tatum. And then another one who actually, when I posted a video comparing Melo and Tatum, somebody commented this, and I could see this as well. Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris grew up on Long Island. Melo wasn't a Knick, I don't think, when he was really growing up and molding his game. But Tobias Harris has a lot of similar tendencies, can shoot, is good in isolation. So I'm going to go Tatum and Tobias Harris.
I like those two. Those are two guys who definitely have modeled their games after Melo. And two mid-range guards. They definitely have the right body type. Tobias, I always feel like he was one of the easiest Melo comps, but I feel like he just needed that extra little juice, and maybe it is this season that Doc Rivers has given it to him. So I've definitely always been a fan of Tobias. My man Reem, who's usually on the show with me, he's a big Tobias guy because he's a big Melo guy. I don't know who's a bigger Melo fan between you and my guy Reem, so I might have to link y'all up one day.
We definitely got it.
Yeah, man. But I definitely get with that. Tatum, he's my top 3 favorite player in the league right now. Definitely
so
after CP, he's my favorite player in the league. So he to me, he has the complete package, all the tools you need. So he's definitely on the path to being one of those scorers in a Melo level, elite level. When it's all said and done, I think Tatum is going to be up there with him. So I agree with you there, man.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to give you a shout out too, my man. Shout out to you on actually starting pushing the whole control the narrative movement. Really pushing for Melo, man, because not a lot of guys are doing that, man, and that's some real shit, man. The streets, they definitely wasn't hearing that Melo slander, and you always kept that same energy pushing that Melo slander, man. So much success to you in the movement, man. It's big time. I didn't know they were that many people in the streets wasn't ready for the Melo slander, wasn't trying to hear it,
bro. I appreciate that first off, and you know what the funny thing is, like, I would always talk to my friends and just people who would talk bass to him, and especially during that whole Rockets era and that year afterwards, like, bro, like, no, Melo can Melo can still play, and they're like, nah, like, you're just a Melo homer, like, we know that you're just saying this because you've been fucking with them since 2005 and all the shit, 2004, but when I first started going out there and tweeting my thoughts and posting on Instagram and all this shit, it was shocking to me how, I was starting to think, damn, am I really crazy? Is Melo actually washed? Because everybody's saying that.
Yeah, I know.
But when I put that out there, and then I got even a few replies in the beginning where people like, bro, like, I've been saying the same thing. I don't think he's washed. So you found a few people, then, they would retweet it, and then you would find more people. And then it's turned into this movement that it's turned into today, which... It just makes me happy at the end of the day because, I've been rocking with Melo for a minute, and I thought I was alone. I was like, damn, is Melo washed? And then obviously he came back and proved that he wasn't. But it's been a fun movement, and, a lot of people have found out about it afterwards. But like, we've been doing this shit since he was out of the league and all that shit. So it's been a fun ride for sure.
Definitely, man. I like I said, man, I wish I would have knew you back then. That's what we must have been distant cousins. I'm over here in Brooklyn screaming out for Melo, me and my boy Reem. So, because I went on a whole washed who campaign with CP and Melo. I was CP, but Reem was Melo. I was on a whole washed who tour. So, yeah, man, shout out to you definitely for pushing that. And I'm sure he had to see you pushing the agenda for him a few times, man. I know he may not always be on social media all the time, but I know you have to be like, yo, man, I know I'm not washed. I know there's a couple real hoop heads who know I'm not washed. So
he actually follows us on IG.
Oh shit, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that.
Yeah.
See?
He's aware of it. Like, he's commenting on a few of our posts here and there.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's always with the movement.
Yeah, man, for sure. So shout out to you with that. Real quick before we get on out of here, what's your thoughts really quick on on the playing game, do you feel like LeBron today was whining about the about the playing game? And it kind of annoyed me, his comments, but I'm gonna let you go on real quick before we get out of here.
Yeah. You know, we all heard what LeBron said last year about the play-in.
Loved it.
Portland, let these guys battle it out. You know, this will be so cool to watch as the Lakers are the number 1 seed. But when the Lakers are in danger of getting in that play-in tournament, then all of a sudden, whoever made that up needs to be fired. I think that's pretty funny. I think that's pretty funny how shit changes, its opinion changes based on their seeding.
Like, come on, LeBron. Stop the whining, brother. Stop the whining, man. Get in there, get back on the floor, and keep it moving. Get into that 6th seed so you don't have to be in the playing game, man. Stop whining. You know the playing game is actually good for the league. I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It gave some good meaning, man.
But you know LeBron, bro, he hasn't been wanting to compete like that since 2010, since he joined Miami.
Always want that free pass.
It's been LeBron. I'm not shocked at that shit. I'm not.
You know he's setting up the whole narrative about he dealt with so much adversity this season.
Yeah.
And when they get to the conference finals, I dealt with so much, and the media's gonna be there like they usually are. So stop the whining, LeBron. Keep playing. Stop it, man. So Steve, my brother, I appreciate you joining me for episode 150, my brother. Thank you for shouting out, pushing that Melo love. We gonna do the same over here, and appreciate you for joining me today, dog.
Of course, bro. We got to get you on Control one of these days, maybe sometime in the summer.
Oh, for sure. Bring me on there, man. I'm ready.
Let's do it.
So yeah, man. So family, that's episode 150, and we out.